My name's James Urquhart Burton and I'm the Head of Continuing Healthcare Claims at Winston Solicitors and a qualified solicitor who specialises in NHS continuing healthcare appeals. I wanted to talk a bit about how to appeal a continuing healthcare decision. The starting point is that you should have received a decision outcome letter from the Integrated Care Board, the ICB, the health body that's made the decision of ineligibility in your loved one's case. I can't stress enough that the most important thing to do to begin with is to check the date on the decision outcome letter and calculate your appeal deadline. The ICB should have provided in the letter details of how you go about registering an appeal against the decision. The ICB might refer to it as local disputes resolution or local resolution, and you have 6 months from the date of the decision letter to register your appeal. So it's important you make a note of that date in your diary. With the decision outcome letter, the ICB should have enclosed a copy of the continuing healthcare assessment in the form of the Decision Support Tool, or DST. If that document is not enclosed in your letter, you must urgently contact the continuing healthcare team at the ICB to request a copy. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to articulate what decision the assessors made, why they made it, and why you disagree with it. So I mentioned that the first stage of appeal is local resolution, and this process involves the ICB looking at the decision it's made and your reasons for disputing it and reconsidering its decision. It usually involves at least one meeting with the ICB to hear from you as to why you disagree with the decision. My advice is that you put your appeal in writing and you send it by email to the email address provided on the ICB's decision letter. And when it comes to how to articulate your appeal, I like to start with the concerns I have about the procedure that the ICB has adopted, any concerns I have about that procedure with reference to the National Framework for Continuing Healthcare, which sets out best practice for conducting continuing healthcare assessments. Next, I would move on to detail the care domain levels that I believe the multidisciplinary team under-assessed. So for example, if I felt that the level of need in behaviour should be severe rather than high as assessed, then I'd want to articulate the reasons why with reference to the specific descriptors in the decision support tool. Finally, it's really important to express why you believe your loved one meets the eligibility criteria for continuing healthcare. So this specifically relates to the primary health need test and the nature, intensity, complexity, or unpredictability of your loved one's needs. You'll need to think carefully about the evidence you want to submit in support of your appeal, and it can be really difficult to know what's relevant and what the ICB is likely to accept. If you're in any doubt whatsoever, please don't hesitate to get in touch with the continuing healthcare team at Winston Solicitors because we can advise you what would be best. You may want to obtain copies of your loved one's care home records, and if the ICB hasn't taken full account of your views, it's really important to make sure that your opinions on your loved one's needs are fully expressed to the ICB so that they know how you feel on the matter. Once you've met with the ICB to consider your appeal, the ICB will either overturn its decision or it will decide to uphold its decision that your loved one is not eligible for continuing healthcare. If that's the case, you should receive a further decision letter which confirms that the local disputes resolution process has been exhausted, and it should confirm your right of appeal to NHS England to ask for an independent review panel to be convened. The independent review panel is the final stage in the appeals process, and again, you have 6 months from the date of the ICB's final decision on the matter to lodge that appeal. So it's really important that you check your date, get advice if you need to, and ensure that you make a note of that appeal deadline and don't miss it if you wish to take matters further. When it comes to submitting an appeal for an independent review panel, again, there are no set rules as to how your appeal should be structured. But the independent review panel is a more formal process than the local disputes resolution process at ICB level. So it's really important that you articulate your grounds for appeal very clearly and concisely, and that you make note of any changes that might have occurred through the local disputes resolution process to be able to explain why you still remain unhappy following that process. I'm often asked what the single most important piece of advice I can give to people is about an appeal against a continuing healthcare decision. And without a doubt, it's attend your local resolution meeting with the ICB. Attend your independent review panel at NHS England. The reason for this is twofold. The first is that members of staff at ICBs and NHS England are extremely busy and working under incredible pressure of resource constraint. So whilst they will read your appeal submissions, it can really help to clearly articulate on the day why you disagree with the decision, so that they know the highlights to take away when making their decision again. The second reason it's important to attend is because the ICB and NHS England need to see that you feel strongly about your loved one's eligibility for continuing healthcare funding. You mean business, and you're not afraid to explain to them why you disagree with their decision and why you'd like them to reconsider it. If you feel you'd benefit from some support in relation to your continuing healthcare appeal, whether at local disputes resolution stage or at independent review panel, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us, because we can tailor and build a plan to support you based on your individual needs, wants, and your budget. As an example, this might involve preparing detailed written submissions on your behalf to submit to the ICB. And we can also offer representation and advocacy services, which means that we can help you prepare for the meeting and then accompany you at the appeal meeting. And instructing a solicitor to represent you in relation to your appeal is likely to have a positive impact on your prospects of success. If you'd like to get in touch with us, please don't hesitate to complete our web form if you'd prefer, or telephone us on 0113 320 5000.